Yes, let's continue. Try to make some hot soups. It's ready in half an hour. I'm making some chili con carne and potatoes. Now I've made potatoes like this. Potatoes, chili con carne from Lidl, but only half. I save. I have an empty glass jar saved for tomorrow. Put it here, 95 degrees. I heat it inside here. So I will eat it in half an hour. So I will stop this video again in half an hour. But that's not enough to finish this. I cannot understand most of this, but I like to read it anyway. Yes, I think we have to read from the top again.
Japanese soldiers of the First Sino-Japanese War, 1895. By the 4th of August, the remaining Chinese forces in Korea retreated to the northern city of Pyongyang, where they were met by troops sent from China. The 15,000 defenders made defensive repairs to the city, hoping to check the Japanese advance. On the 15th of September, the Imperial Japanese Army converged on the city of Pyongyang from several directions. The Japanese assaulted the city and eventually defeated the Chinese by an attack from the rear. The defenders surrendered. Taking advantage of heavy rainfall overnight, the remaining Chinese troops escaped Pyongyang and headed northeast toward the coastal city of Ulaju. In the early morning of the 16th of September, the entire Japanese army entered Pyongyang. Qinghui Muslim generals Yuo Baogi, from Shandong province, died in action in Pyongyang from Japanese artillery in 1894 while securing the city. A memorial to him was constructed. 92. Defeat of the Btiang fleet. The Battle of the Yalu River. In early September, Li Hongzhang decided to reinforce the Chinese forces at Pyongyang by employing the Btiang fleet to escort transports to the mouth of the Taedong River. 93. About 4,500 additional troops stationed in July were to be redeployed. On the 12th of September, half of the troops embarked at Daegu on 5 specially chartered transports and headed to Dalian, where 2 days later, on the 14th of September, they were joined by another 2,000 soldiers. Initially, Admiral Ding wanted to send the transports under a light escort with only a few ships, while the main force of the Btiang fleet would locate and operate directly against the combined fleet in order to prevent the Japanese from intercepting the convoy. 93. But the appearance of the Japanese cruisers Yoshino and Naniwa on a reconnaissance sortie near Wihaiwea thwarted these plans. 93. The Chinese had mistaken them for the main Japanese fleet. Consequently, on the 12th of September, the entire Btiang fleet departed Dalian heading for Wihaiwea, arriving near the Shandong Peninsula the next day. The Chinese warships spent the entire day cruising Feria, waiting for the Japanese. However, since there was no sighting of the Japanese fleet, Admiral Ding decided to return to Dalian, reaching the port in the morning of September 15. 93. As Japanese troops moved north to attack Pyongyang, Admiral Ito correctly guessed that the Chinese would attempt to reinforce their army in Korea by sea. On the 14th of September, the combined fleet steamed northwards to search the Korean and Chinese coasts in order to bring the Btiang fleet to battle. 94. The Japanese victory at Pyongyang had succeeded in pushing Chinese troops north to the Yalu River, in the process removing all effective Chinese military presence on the Korean peninsula. 95. Shortly before the convoy's departure, Admiral Ding received a message concerning the battle at Pyongyang informing him about the defeat. Subsequently, it made the redeployment of the troops to the mouth of the Taedong River unnecessary. 93. Admiral Ding then correctly assumed that the next Chinese line of defense would be established on the Yalu River, and decided to redeploy the embarked soldiers there. 93. On the 16th of September, the convoy of 5 transport ships departed from Dalian Bay under escort from the vessels of the Btiang fleet, which included the 2 ironclad battleships Dinjuan and Jiniwan. 93. Reaching the mouth of the Yalu River, the transports disembarked the troops, and the landing operation lasted until the following morning. On the 17th of September, 1894, the Japanese combined fleet encountered the Chinese Btiang fleet off the mouth of the Yalu River. The naval battle, which lasted from late morning to dusk, resulted in a Japanese victory. 94. Although the Chinese were able to land 4,500 troops near the Yalu River by sunset, the Btiang fleet was near the point of total collapse. Most of the fleet had fled or had been sunk, and the 2 largest ships, Dinjuan and Jiniwan, were nearly out of ammunition. 96. The Imperial Japanese Navy destroyed 8 of 10 Chinese warships, assuring Japan's command of the Yellow Sea. The principal factor in the Japanese victory was its superiority in speed and firepower. 97. The victory shattered the morale of the Chinese naval forces. 98. The Battle of the Yalu River was the largest naval engagement of the war and was a major propaganda victory for Japan. 99. 100. Invasion of Manchuria. With the defeat at Pyongyang, the Chinese abandoned northern Korea and took up defensive positions in fortifications along their city off the Yalu River near Juliancheng. After receiving reinforcements by the 10th of October, the Japanese quickly pushed north toward Manchuria. On the night of the 24th of October, 1894, the Japanese successfully crossed the Yalu River, undetected, by erecting a pontoon bridge. Following afternoon of the 25th of October at 17 o'clock, they assaulted the outpost of Hushan, east of Juliancheng. At 20:30 the defenders deserted the positions, and by the next day they were in full retreat from Juliancheng. An illustration by Utagawa Kokunuma. South Japanese soldiers beheading 38 Chinese POWs as a warning to others. With the capture of Juliancheng, General Yamagate's 1st Army Corps occupied the nearby city of Dandan, while to the north, elements of the retreating Btiang army set fire to the city of Fengcheng. The Japanese had established a firm foothold on Chinese territory with loss of only 4 killed and 140 wounded. The Japanese 1st Army Corps then split into 2 groups, with General Nozomi Chitsura's 5th Provincial Division advancing toward the city of Mukden, present-day Shenyang, and Lieutenant General Katsurata's 3rd Provincial Division pursuing fleeing Chinese forces west toward the Liaodong Peninsula. By December, the 3rd Provincial Division had captured the towns of Tatanka, Takushan, Ziyuan, Tumaken, Heicheng and Kangweize. The 5th Provincial Division marched during a severe Manchurian winter towards Mukden. The Japanese 2nd Army Corps under Yama Iwao landed on the south coast of Liaodong Peninsula on the 24th of October and quickly moved to capture Jinju and Dalian Bay on 6–7 of November. The Japanese laid siege to the strategic port of Lashunku, Port Arthur. Fall of Lashunku. By the 21st of November, 1894, the Japanese had taken the city of Lashunku, Port Arthur, with minimal resistance and suffering minimal casualties. Describing their motives as having encountered a display of the mutilated remains of Japanese soldiers as they invaded their town, Japanese forces proceeded with the unrestrained killing of civilians during the Port Arthur massacre with unconfirmed estimates in the thousands. This event was at the time widely viewed with skepticism, as the world at large was still in disbelief that the Japanese were capable of such deeds. It seemed more likely to have been exaggerated propagandist fabrications of a Chinese government to discredit Japanese hegemony. In reality, the Chinese government itself was unsure how to react and initially denied the occurrence of loss of Port Arthur to the Japanese altogether. As we entered the town of Port Arthur, we saw the head of a Japanese soldier displayed on a wooden stake. This filled us with rage and a desire to crush any Chinese soldier. Anyone we saw in the town, we killed. The streets were filled with corpses, so many they blocked our way. We killed people in their homes. By and large, there wasn't a single house without from 3 to 6 dead. Blood was flowing and the smell was awful. We sent out search parties. We shot some, hacked at others. The Chinese troops just dropped their arms and fled. Firing and slashing, it was unbounded joy. At this time, our artillery troops were at the rear, giving 3 cheers, Banzai, for the Emperor. Meikyo Okabe, Diary, 101. By the 10th of December, 1894, Kaiping, present-day Gaeu, fell to the Japanese First Army Corps. Fall of Wihiwea. Revisionist depiction of Chinese legation, led by Admiral Ding Ruckane and their foreign advisors boarding the Japanese vessel to negotiate the surrender with Admiral Tsukiyuki after the Battle of Wihiwea. In reality, Ding had committed suicide after his defeat and never surrendered. The Chinese fleet subsequently retreated behind the Wihiwea fortifications. However, it wasn't surprised by Japanese ground forces, who outflanked the harbor's defenses in coordination with the Navy. 102. The Battle of Wihiwea was a 23-day siege with the major land and naval engagements taking place between the 20th of January and the 12th of February, 1895. Historian Jonathan Spence notes that the Chinese admiral retired his fleet behind a protective curtain of contact mines and took no further part in the fighting. 103. The Japanese commander marched his forces over the Shandong Peninsula and reached the landward side of Wihiwea, where the siege was eventually successful for the Japanese. 103. After Wihiwea's fall on the 12th of February, 1895, and an easing of harsh winter conditions, Japanese troops pressed further into southern Manchuria and northern China. By March 1895, the Japanese had fortified posts that commanded the sea approaches to Beijing. Although this would be the last major battle fought, numerous skirmishes would follow. The Battle of Yingkou was fought outside the port town of Yingkou, Manchuria, on the 5th of March 1895. Occupation of the Pescadores Islands. Even before the peace negotiations were set to begin at Shimonoseki, the Japanese had begun preparations for the capture of Taiwan. However, the first operation would be directed not against the island itself, but against the Pescadores Islands, which due to their strategic position off the west coast would become a stepping stone for further operations against the island. 104. On March the 6th, a Japanese expeditionary force consisting of a reinforced infantry regiment with 2,800 troops and an artillery battery were embarked on 5 transports, and sailed from Ujina to Sasebo, arriving there 3 days later. 104. On the 15th of March, the 5 transports, escorted by 7 cruisers and 5 torpedo boats of the 4th Flotilla, left Sasebo heading south. The Japanese fleet arrived at the Pescadores during the night of the 20th of March, but encountered stormy weather. Due to the poor weather, the landings were postponed until the 23rd of March, when the weather cleared. 105. On the morning the 23rd of March, the Japanese warships began the bombardment of the Chinese positions around the port of Litsanjiao. A fort guarding the harbor was quickly silenced. At about midday, the Japanese troops began their landing. Unexpectedly, when the landing operation was underway, the guns of the fort once again opened fire, which caused some confusion among the Japanese troops. But they were soon silenced again after being shelled by the Japanese cruisers. 105. By 14 o'clock, Litsanjiao was under Japanese control. After reinforcing the captured positions, the following morning, Japanese troops marched on the main town of Magan. The Chinese offered token resistance